It's my pleasure to sort of introduce the panel that will be speaking next. And what I'm going to do is sort of introduce them. I think folks should come up. Where Steve, Ronaldo, anyone that's on this panel, Jeff, Deborah, we're one seat short.
Here's a chair
Well, yeah,
right here.
pull that one right there. Sure. Well, hold on. Okay, so I'm going to introduce the members of the panel. I think that Lil has sort of helped to frame it. These are the kind of grounded examples of case studies of organizing locally across the country. Folks will talk a little bit not only about the experience but the takeaways from the organizing. Steve London, to my left, is Associate Professor of Political Science at Brooklyn College. He's also the first Vice President and Legislative Representative of the Professional Staff Congress at CUNY. As Legislative Rep, he leads the union member-based political action campaigns and CUNY budget advocacy. He also serves as PSC CUNY Welfare Fund Executive Officer and is Chair of the Contract Enforcement and is a board member at NYC. To my right is Jeff Kolnick. He teaches history at Southwest Minnesota State University. He's an active member of his current union and currently serves on the IFO negotiating team. He is also a founding member of the Fannie Lou Hamer National Institute on Citizenship and Democracy. To his right is Deborah Lee, and she's a professor at St. Cloud State University. She's been an active member of the Inter-Faculty Organization for over 20 years and is currently the lead organizer of the Community Anti-Racism Education Initiative. To her right is Craig Flannery. Is Administrative Director and Special Projects Coordinator of the new faculty majority. He's also was National Coordinator for Campus Equity Week in 2013, contingent faculty member in political science at Cal State U, East Bay, and Laney College, Oakland, California. And he was previously Senior Program Officer in the Department of Organizing and Services at AAUP. Dr. Ronaldo Anderson serves currently as a member of the Executive Board for the Missouri Arts Council and as an Assistant Professor of Humanities and Teacher Education at Harris-Stowe State University in St. Louis. Ronaldo was recognized by Governor Jay Nixon in 2010 for his leadership in the community and recently helped organize an NEA chapter at Harris-Stowe State University, where he serves as Vice President. And finally, Ronaldo publishes research in regard to several dimensions of the African American experience, the African diaspora, and taught as visiting lecturer this past summer in Accra, Ghana. That's the panel. You'll see as from the titles that it's a cross-section of organizing case studies, any one of which or all of which should be useful. Steve London.
Give me a second here. All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We're early. That means we all have more time, right, Mike?
Not really. You're on the dime.
Oh, okay. Well, there's going to be a lot of repetition here today. I thought Lil's presentation was really very good, and you're going to see the same themes repeated a little bit differently, I think, in each of our presentations. I'm going to talk today about the two campaigns that the PSC has been engaged in, and we're currently continuing to be engaged in. And one has to do with pathways, and the other has to do with the electoral campaign in New York City that resulted in the election of Bill de Blasio as mayor. But I wanted to begin by talking about what I guess is our kind of a general perspective that we take towards campaigns. And so if you look at the first slide that I have here, we try to employ an inside-outside strategy for all of our campaigns. Now, the inside is well known to everybody. I think we talk about it all the time. You know, is mobilizing the membership, going through a lot of the traditional channels, such as bargaining, lobbying, electoral politics, legal strategies. But it's also important to keep in mind that there is a whole world out there, and that we often work inside the confines of the existing framework of power. And the idea of an outside strategy is to work with other groups to pursue building an alternative power base, an alternative agenda, progressive agenda. And so when we conduct a campaign, we always look for opportunities to work with coalition partners and others outside the traditional framework. As I talk more about the de Blasio campaign, you'll see that there has been a long-term activity plan that we've been engaged in to help build such an outside progressive force with others in New York City. This isn't changing. There we go. The goals of our campaigns, whenever we engage in campaigns, is of course, as I indicated, is to employ an inside-outside strategy, but also to unite the entire membership behind the specific goals of the campaign. Also, we want to build a network of leaders in the campaign that will become an important resource in the future. It's also important to build synergy among campaigns. If we have whatever, not only leadership that we've developed in one campaign, that transfers into others, as well as coalition partners. And building momentum from one campaign to the next is also important. We're always active, we're always moving, and I know that everybody in here feels that that is something that weighs heavily on them all the time. So I want to begin talking about our specific campaigns by talking about the one that we just finished, as successfully finished, and that is our adjunct health insurance campaign. Here you see Barbara Bowen, the president of our union, announcing a successful conclusion at a board of trustees meeting where the board voted to include funding for adjunct health insurance in its budget submission. So that was an important victory. And right on the heels of this, we entered into our Pathways campaign. Now, Pathways was, some people refer to always being on the defense. Well, I'm going to talk about a defensive campaign, which is Pathways, and then in a moment, an offensive campaign. The Board of Trustees, for those of you who don't know, very briefly, passed a Common Core curriculum. It was imposed CUNY-wide, and it was imposed top-down without faculty approval. So we responded to this, and we set a series of goals for the campaign. First of all, our goal was to unite the constituencies throughout the university in opposition to Pathways. In particular, we wanted to highlight faculty governance, both centrally and at each constituent college. We wanted also to link Pathways to the larger neoliberal policies. We called Pathways austerity education, and we made it clear that it was bad for students. We also, in this campaign, wanted to set a national example of resistance. Pathways and the Common Core is not new. We know this and we've seen it across the country. We wanted to show that it could be resisted and set that as an example. And then, of course, we wanted to repeal pathways, and that's something that is ongoing. So what kind of actions did we take in this campaign? We launched local and national petition campaigns. And here you can see that we got 5,646 signatures. We presented them at a board meeting. We gave testimony. We mobilized many of our members to demonstrate at Board of Trustee meetings. We held town halls. We also organized at the department level. We had thousands of member-to-member conversations all across the university, and that resulted in about a half dozen campuses passing a moratorium. And the faculties on those campuses did not impose or did not pass through their faculty governance processes any curricular changes. The president submitted them to the Board of Trustees, but that was very important because it gave us the basis for legal action. And that took what Lil was talking about, the day-to-day conversations with members, thousands upon thousands. We ran ads in the newspaper, in the New York Times. We had an ad war with CUNY. In essence, the ads were a way to speak to targeted constituencies or friends around the city, but also, and to our members, but it also goaded CUNY to answer us. And these were paid ads, but the paid ads and the ad war then got unpaid attention. So there were a lot of talk shows and others, oh, this is interesting, you know, what's going on here, and it got them to take notice. We reached out to our students. We also filed 2 major lawsuits and a contractual grievance. We did a referendum among the faculty. It was sort of a major victory for us because CUNY claimed that the faculty supported them, so we said, oh yeah. So we did a referendum, went to a neutral third party, and we got 92% of those voting, which was an absolute majority of our membership. We even got the New York Post. Of all newspapers, the New York Post had to say, well, I guess the faculty don't agree. And so the administration's myth of faculty buy-in was busted. I'm going to have to move along because I don't have much time, and I want to get to the other campaign, and I can discuss some of the successes, the concrete successes, and where we stand in question and answer. We've been engaged in a several-year campaign to unite with coalitions in the city. We're a member of the Working Families Party. We've supported New York Communities of Change, which is a successor organization to ACORN. We work with our labor affiliates around the city. And that provided a basis for us to engage in the mayoral campaign and the city council campaigns that took place in New York City and that you may read about. As a matter of fact, the Nation magazine's just, if you get the latest issue, it has a whole bunch of articles, several articles, about what happened in New York City. The goals of our campaign were to introduce CUNY and its historic defunding as a campaign issue. We also, of course, had as a goal to enhance the political influence of the PSC and to contribute to building a progressive coalition and an agenda in New York City. And I think on all 3 counts, we have been very successful. As you can see, in the mayoral campaign, after we met with de Blasio and had discussions with him and his campaign staff back in May, when he was at 10% in the polls, we talked about CUNY, and we talked about the problems with CUNY, and after that, he came out with a plan to devote $150 million more in city funding. That's a 60% increase in city funding to CUNY. He talked about CUNY as a strategic institution in New York City to deal with his main issue that he articulated in the campaign, which was, of course, the tale of two cities and inequality. So we were successful early on in having de Blasio take this up as one of his major campaign themes. And he continued with that theme throughout the course of the campaign. He continued with it after he was elected, and he has also continued with it as recently as a week ago or so after he took office. Our activity in the campaign was very extensive. Our members threw themselves into this at all levels. We campaigned not only with him across the city, but also on the campuses. We mobilized the student vote across the city. It was clear from the point of view of the campaign that they understood our impact. At one point, both de Blasio and another citywide candidate, Scott Stringer, told Barbara that wherever we go in the city, we always see PSC members who come up to us and say, "Oh, I'm from the PSC and we support you." And so that was reflected in their understanding of the amount of work that we were doing and our members were doing in the campaign. We did all the various things that one does in the campaign, and it was successful. We elected 3 progressive citywide leaders. In the city council, we worked with the Progressive Caucus. At the city council, we elected we endorsed 36 winning candidates, 3 candidates for borough president, as well as the 3 top officers. So this was a very successful effort. Another city is possible was part of what we maintained in our literature, and in a number of different fora, when de Blasio was with us, we heard from him his appreciation for our efforts. So last slide, since my time is up. After the election, we don't stop. A lot of promises, and so we're part of a broad-based coalition that makes it clear that this is our moment, that we have to keep up the pressure, and so I will be happy to talk more about that as we go forward in the discussion. Thank you.